Hey, what's up everybody? Nate here from Out of the Basement, bringing you a brand new action figure review. Today we're looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Nightwing. This is from the brand new line of McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse stuff. Of course, I've been reviewing most of these on the channel. You can check out a review for the comic book Batman, animated Green Lantern, and the Hellbat and Unchained Superman armor. I'll have a link for all of those down in the description. But today we're looking at Nightwing, which was probably one of my most anticipated figures of the line. I absolutely love Nightwing. Let's not waste any more time. Let's take a look at the package. Of course, you've got the big window box, and this box is even bigger because this is part of the line with the Build a Batmobile piece, which is for a gimmick. Personally, I'm not going to complete these Batmobiles, and I would definitely prefer it to be an action figure, but I can see people being into the Batmobiles. So of course you get the nice window box. DC Multiverse Nightwing. On the side it says Nightwing. On the back you get a nice picture of Nightwing from the comics. You can see the other collect to build Batmobile pieces. You can see the other two figures you need to purchase, which is Batgirl, who I'm definitely interested in, and the Batman Who Laughs, who I'm definitely not interested in. And then on the side here you get Nightwing Better Than Batman, which is what I would assume the name of the series or issue is that this guy is based off of. So now that we've taken a look at the box, let's go ahead. We're gonna open him up. I'll show you the collect to build Batmobile piece, his accessories, and then we'll go over the figure itself. And first things first, you get the trading card and the stand that's in the backdrop. And here is the collect to build Batmobile piece. You can see Nightwing comes with the middle piece. And honestly, this does look pretty nice. It's pretty sizable as well. Just to give you a comparison, here is Nightwing and here is the piece. So I know a lot of people were thinking that maybe these were gonna be really small, but it actually is, at the very least, a decent size. Of course, it's not in scale with the figures at all, but it does have some nice sculpt work, and it does have some nice paint application as well. I like this sort of silver dry brushing effect it's got going on, and the eyes are nice and sculpted in there with the yellow paint. Looks very striking. So I think this is a really cool piece, but for me personally, I don't have any room or desire in my collection for some Batmobiles of this scale. But I could see some people really getting into this, and I appreciate the effort, and McFarlane at least trying to do something a little different. Although, like I said, 100% would prefer Build-A-Figures. But this is not a bad piece. At least it's got some decent sculpt work and paint apps on it. You also get Nightwing's billy clubs here, which are just some black plastic with a little bit of sculpted detail on them. You can see right down there, you've got like grooves for the handles, and they have these nice little notches on them that work really well with the weapon storage, because thankfully Nightwing does have weapon storage. Now, it's not the most pretty weapon storage. It's kind of gross looking in some ways, but you just sort of snap that in, and then the little line piece will hold it right in place in like a perfect angle, so you can see it perfectly rising above his back. And you can see when it's actually in the back on the storage, it looks really nice. I like the way this turned out a lot. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at Nightwing. All right, and here is Nightwing out of the packaging, and he looks pretty damn good. He definitely is not without issues, which is a little disappointing because this was my most anticipated McFarlane release, but I think that the good outweighs the bad for this guy. However, there are definitely plenty of things to be frustrated about with this Nightwing in particular. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. All right, so taking a close look at the details on Nightwing, you can see that obviously his costume design is never anything super intricate, but it does have some nice striking blue details on it. And I gotta say right off the bat, my thing that I really enjoy about these McFarlane figures so far is the sculpted logos on the chests. So Robin. So Nightwing's piece right here, his little bird piece, is actually sculpt work, and it looks really awesome, and it pops out right at you. Same thing with the shoulder pieces even. This is all separate sculpt work, and down here as well for the pieces on the legs. All separate sculpt work, and it's painted really well. Same thing on the knuckles here with that little bit of blue paint. That looks really nice. As for the general sculpt of the figure though, this is where I kind of have some issues with it. I feel like Nightwing looks a little awkward. His legs are definitely way too long for his torso. However, I will say that he only really looks this way when he's in a vanilla stance. Of course, once you start posing him around, I think those issues kind of disappear. But also with his legs being so long, it makes his arms look incredibly short. And maybe it's because he also doesn't have a cape, but it also makes his arms look really thin. I'm pretty sure most of these figures share similar pieces between each other, like the comic book Batman. Some of these pieces definitely do look pretty similar. But with Nightwing, he just looks more awkward, I think. But again, I think once you get him into some good posing, he doesn't really look too bad. We'll take a close look here at his head sculpt, which I think also looks really fantastic. The mask is also part of the sculpt. It is a separate sculpted piece on the face, which is really nice, makes it pop out, looks more realistic. And I do think the head sculpt in general is borderline amazing. I think the expression is really nice for Nightwing. The hair sculpt looks really good. He also has hints of blue throughout his hair, which is kind of hard to see on camera, but you can definitely tell it is there. It looks really nice. Definitely adds to the whole Nightwing aesthetic, because I could totally picture him having blue in his hair, and I'm pretty sure in comics he's mostly drawn with that blue in his hair. But yeah, the head sculpt is just so good. And then moving down, we already talked about the wing logo, but just taking another look at it, it looks really nice. The sculpted line work on the suit also looks really good, gives it a nice update, but again, mostly this is just black plastic, not a whole lot of paint details or anything going on. And then Nightwing also has gigantic feet, and his leg shape is kind of weird. I don't know if I'm just noticing this now, but really odd leg shape, and I think his feet are way too big. They're huge compared to the rest of his body. So Nightwing is just a really awkwardly proportioned figure. And of course, a big issue I have with him is the scale, which I'll show you later in the comparison section of the review. But for now, I think overall, anatomy aside, we're just taking a look at the figure, taking a look at the representation of Nightwing. I think this is a really solid release. The head sculpt is fantastic. I love the hair, and I love all the sculpted details on the actual figure. Of course, Nightwing's design is incredibly simple, but when you get it right, you can really make it pop. And I think this figure definitely pops out with all of the sculpted work and detail. So now let's go ahead and we'll take a look at his articulation. Nightwing can look up about that far. He can look down pretty far. You get side-to-side attitude, which is really important for Nightwing. Tons of head rotation. He has some interesting articulation that I haven't seen on the other figures yet, at least the ones I own. And his head has articulation, and then his neck also has some independent articulation, which is really nice. Gives you that little bit of extra head movement that you can really make him look up and into some decent poses. But I haven't seen that on the other ones I have, so that's interesting. These shoulders can move out all the way up. They can rotate all the way around. He does have butterfly joints as well, which is really nice, but of course with this cupping thing you run into a similar problem as the animated Green Lantern, where the suit design ends up getting broken up. But I think with Nightwing, the black butterfly joints hide in the figure a little bit better, so you can definitely get some poses where it doesn't look broken up at all. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that give you way more than 90, which is very important, especially when it comes to an acrobatic character like Nightwing. Of course, the McFarlane wrists can rotate. They can go up, down. You can pivot the joint and make it go side to side as well if you'd like. He has an upper torso swivel right here, and then a lower torso swivel as well. And let's check the crunch. That is about as far as you get forward. And he can go back really far, which again doesn't really make sense for a human being. But this is an action figure, so I'm not gonna knock it for that. The legs can kick out really far, and his middle cod piece right here is a very soft plastic, so it does not get in the way of the articulation. Double knee works fantastic right there. Complete insane range, and he can do the splits about that far. He also has a very slight thigh swivel. I'm not sure if both of mine are frozen, but it's definitely feels like it's there, but at the same time I'm not 100% sure. I did have to blow dry the crap out of this guy. My copy was frozen all over the place. And for the feet here, they can go down pretty far. they can go up pretty far. He also has a toe hinge and weird ankle pivot that doesn't really do much. It's kind of like an awkward side to side thing. So let's go ahead and give him some comparisons to some other figures from McFarlane, along with the usual suspects. All right, here he is with the animated Green Lantern and the comic book Batman, and this is one of my major flaws with this figure. Of course, he doesn't scale with the animated release, which is fine. These are completely over-exaggerated, only meant to scale with the other animated figures. But these two are both comic book representations of the characters, and just look at how tall Nightwing is. He's taller than Batman. His head is completely out of proportion, which I know this Batman has a small head in general, but with them both being comic book characters, where's the scale here? Where is the scale? So are we getting 3 different scales in the McFarlane line? This is what's currently confusing me. Is there going to be like a comic book scale for this kind of Batman, and then a different kind for like Nightwing and Batgirl? Because they're completely not in scale. I think Nightwing is way too big. Obviously his head is way too big, which is a little disappointing because I was hoping, you know, they'd look good together, but they really don't. At least when they're both in neutral poses. Maybe once I get them into some more dynamic poses, they won't look so jarring together, but having Nightwing literally be this big is pretty disappointing. Here he is next to the Mezco 112 Batman and the NECA Jungle Hunter Predator. Then here he is with the Color Tops McFarlane Spawn and the Gold Dino Charge Ranger from the Lightning Collection. Then here he is with the Hellbat suit and the Superman Unchained armor. And finally with the NECA Superman and Armored Batman, which I know these aren't in scale, but Nightwing is even taller than this Superman. So overall, this figure is not perfect. He definitely has some scaling issues, has some very minor anatomy issues, but like I said towards the beginning of this review, I think the good outweighs the bad. He's got really nice sculpt work. His billy clubs look nice. He's got really clean paint apps. I definitely absolutely love the head sculpt. The articulation is also pretty damn good. You can definitely get him into some pretty dynamic poses, which again, like I said, can definitely hide sort of the weird anatomy issues that Nightwing does have. Of course, I can definitely see that scaling thing being a big negative to a lot of people, and I understand it. And it does bug me as well, but I think overall, just judging this figure on its own, I am definitely going to give this one a recommend. So what do you guys think of Nightwing? Are you going to pick it up? Are you going to skip it? Let's talk about them in the comments down below. Of course, if you enjoyed my review, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. We're always talking about action figures, movies, and Blu-rays here on the channel. So if any of that is interesting to you, definitely smash subscribe. Of course, I'm Nate. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time on Out of the Basement.